or the only generation to remember life before the internet and then after the internet. And me working in dating apps, at the first part of my career, I saw like all of those consumer apps like Uber and Snapchat and dating apps, Tinder, all of that like kind of take over. And I think that social media and Instagram has really, all of it, just in like this one big perfect storm, sort of came together to create this absolutely insane binge drinking culture that really nobody's done any like research into this, because I think it's too complicated to like do the cause and correlation between all that stuff. But just from what I saw living in, you know, big cities and everything, I would say the vast majority of my peer group through their 20s was binge drinking to like a really unhealthy level. And I think when the pandemic started, whether or not that was like your big last hurrah with alcohol and you drank all through it and then realized like, oh my God, I need to cut back, for whatever reason, I just think people are tired, honestly, and like realizing that they can't continue that pace of alcohol consumption, whether it's in their house or out partying or whatever it is. You just aren't going to be as productive as you could possibly be. And I always am very careful to point out that this category, Buzzkill especially, like I'm not out here to demonize alcohol. Like I said, like if I want a cocktail or a glass of wine or whatever, like I'm going to have it. Not everyone is like that. That's their choice. Like that's totally valid as well. But, the majority of the customers that drink non-alc, 80%, they also drink alcohol on occasion. So it's really just like mixing in all these non-alcoholic options that I think people are like, they're just ready for another option.
I completely understand what you're saying. And I mean, yeah, I've had that thought for a while too, that I was like, we're the bridge between, you know, generations here, because like you said, we know what it was like not having the internet whatsoever. And then now we're in a world where people can't go 5 minutes without being on their phone, which is, you know, being connected to the internet at all times. So, and we're also like the whole bar argument and conversation almost don't happen anymore, because it's like, oh, well, remember this, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, they can't think of it. And then somebody will look it up and be like, oh, it's this. And then if you ask them the next day what it was, they probably can't remember again, because it was just so, we don't have to remember anything. Everything we ever needed to know is in our phones, in our pockets at all times.
I know. And I hate that. Like, it drives me nuts, because I'm someone that like, I'm super social. Like I love hanging out in bars, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just a great place to have conversations. And, I don't like that like people, like why go to a bar if you're going to sit on your phone or look something up on your phone?
Right. I think that, I mean, I always feel bad whenever I do, like maybe I'm meeting somebody and I happen to be early and I'm sitting at a bar, sitting at the table. I was like, do I need to be on my phone? No, I can just, you know, people watch, or I guarantee there's a TV. If I needed to be entertained, that could be it. But, you know, getting life straight from the source is, you know, to quote the amazing philosopher Justin Bieber, getting life straight from the source, you know, is the best thing to do, because you're getting life straight from the source. Like that's your built-in entertainment, the world. Like learn something, go like talk to a random stranger. Like obviously, you know, if you are a woman, it might be a little different going and talking to random strangers. But, you know, for the most part, if you're sitting at a bar, that bartender is going to help you out in case something weird happens. So,
well, you know, I'm of the belief that like if you're in a bar, I think you are telling other people in the bar that you are open to conversation. If you want to sit by yourself with your thoughts, go to the library. Like, you know, like I don't know. But that's just my opinion. And, you know, the other thing is that I've actually always said this, maybe this is something Buzzkill can do at some point. I think someone needs to open a bar that is a phone-free bar. Like you walk in and you're not allowed to use your phone. And I'm talking everything, like scrolling, taking pictures, everything. Like if you want to take pictures, bring a disposable camera. I also think concerts need to be phone-free. I hate going to a concert where everyone's just got their like phones up. Like, are you really going to watch that video back? Like, I don't believe it.
I think about that all the time when I'm actually taking photos. I'm like, or videos. I'm like, am I really going to ever watch this again? Because more than likely I'm not. But pictures,
you're not gonna watch something back of like, you know, a guy on stage like playing whatever. Like if you want that, like go look on YouTube. There's much better quality videos.
So much better quality video and audio. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think the experience, there's so many experiences in life that are enhanced by just being present with the people around you. And concerts and bars are two of them.
Without a doubt. I mean, I'm a big fan of dive bars too, and then that people watching is one of the best things on the planet.
Oh, it's the best thing in the world. Like, I love dive bars because, like, you get such a cross-section of America. Like, you get, like, the old crusty guy, you get, like, the random, like, you know, hot 20-somethings, the bartenders are always fun to talk to. It's awesome. It's such a fun group of people.
Yes. The grizzled old people or the townies that are always at the dive bars are always the best to watch and talk to, depending on how many drinks they've had in. But
yeah. Exactly.
Now, I've heard in multiple interviews you talk about mental health and your struggles, and I applaud you for being so open about that because I mean, obviously mental health is definitely becoming more of a forefront for a lot more people, and I think a lot more people do need to take into account how their mental health is affecting them because it affects them and also everybody else. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I actually totally agree with that, and I think not enough people talk about that aspect of it, which is like, hey, it's not just affecting you, it's affecting everyone around you.
Right. Now, I even heard a funny high school journal reading in one of your interviews, which I highly recommend people go find that. It was very funny.
Oh, I think that was a lot. That was with my former coworker. She has a podcast now. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yes, it was. I was like, this is fantastic. And I could mentally see it too. So like it should be a cartoon or a short somewhere. So in the future.
Maybe that's down the line.
It could happen. Yeah. Maybe somebody listening is like, oh, I'm bored. Maybe I'll do that with them.
Yeah.
But I want to know, do you still journal, and how do you now try to help yourself when it does come to mental health?
That is such a good question. Yes, I do still journal. I journal every single morning. It is my non-negotiable for every single day. Even if all I do is write like one sentence, I open that journal and I sit there and I write, too busy to journal or like whatever. But yeah, I do have a journal. I have a very specific journal that I write in that I've gone through several of them. And specific pens and everything. And yeah, I do everything. I don't really write about my day necessarily, which I used to, but I use journaling. I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I'm someone who's had trouble in the past being totally honest with therapists. So I found, like, I always want to be like the favorite patient. And like, if they're like, oh, like, did you have this breakthrough? I want to be like, yes, I did have that breakthrough, even if I didn't have that breakthrough. So I found that like journaling is a really cool place that I can, it's a good place for me to just be super honest because nobody is reading it. So I do a lot of thinking. I also go on Pinterest a lot. I get, journal prompts that I can answer if I'm like feeling stuck about what I want to write about. But I found that journaling for me has been like a million times more effective than therapy. Although now, I also know I'm someone, like I went to journalism school. I'm a writer. It's like, I love that. But, I do think now I would be interested in getting back into therapy just to like talk to somebody about some of the things I've written about now that I've gotten pretty deep into it.
Very nice. It's hilarious to me that you would lie to your therapist as if you're just like almost wasting your money just to go lie to somebody.
So I'm actually reading a book right now called, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb, who's she's a very prominent therapist. She's awesome. And her book is about her patients. Obviously all the names change, and then her own experience in therapy. And that's apparently a very common thing, is that people lie all the time in therapy.
Huh.
Yeah. It's like, which is weird. It's so true. Like you are wasting your money if you're going in there and lying, or you lie by omission, or maybe like it takes you, you know, like a year of therapy to actually like tell the whole story or whatever. But you know, there's a lot of shame involved in people's life stories, and sometimes you just don't feel comfortable sharing that or even admitting it to yourself out loud.
Right. Yeah, I think that one's the biggest one, is admitting it to yourself, because no one likes it when somebody holds a mirror up to them. It's like, this is really what's going on, because in your mind you're like, oh, everything's fine, everything's good. I'm doing this. I'm working on that, so it'll be fine later. But in reality, you're not.
You're not. And I think for people that are, perfectionists in any way, therapy can be a really challenging environment, because you want to do, or people pleasers is maybe a better term to say, because you want to, for me especially, like I found myself always wanting to do what I thought the therapist wanted me to do or say. So I was like, oh, she's expecting me to cry right now. I should probably like get sad and cry, which is ridiculous, but that's just kind of what I was thinking.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely been called a people pleaser, and it's something I am working on. And the word no is becoming more common. It's not easy, but it's definitely a word that I think a lot more people, especially if you're a people pleaser, need to start putting in your vocabulary.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you, and that's something that I've been working on, not just in my personal life, but in my business life as well. Obviously I work with a lot of people, and my wonderful lawyer, who's like a life mentor to me as well, his name's Gary. He's always pushing me. He's like, you got to be the boss. Like, you really think something, like, you got to tell someone no. You got to tell them what to do. Make people do their jobs. And like, again, as a people pleaser, I just want to make everyone happy around me. But yeah, I mean, part of owning a company is you have to be hard on people sometimes. So yeah, it's been a learning process.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to journal daily. I usually will write a little something, and then I'll write 3 bad things from the day before and then 3 good things, and then go about my day. So that's usually my way of doing it.
Good for you. Yeah, that's awesome. More people should do it.
Yes. Yeah, also, like, how many people actually still physically write anything? So I think that one was really something I liked adding as well to my day, because, again, we live on our phones. We don't have to write anything. So I think adding that back in was really nice, too.
Totally agree. Yeah, I agree. Like, the act of physically writing, I used to say that my brain, like, my excuse for, I was journaling on my computer for a while, and my excuse was like, oh, well, I can't physically write as fast as my brain is moving. But now I realize maybe it's good to slow down by physically writing.
I mean, I always knew I was a bad speller also, but I don't try to proofread anything, because I'm like, nope, this is how I think it's spelled, so I'll figure it out later.
There's always, I don't know if this is true for you or not. Do you have those words that, like, you spell wrong every single time?
Oh, yeah. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but yes, every single time. I'm like, I think convenient is probably one of them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Like, well, I think this goes here, but it's probably, and then I look it up, I'm like, nope, you're way wrong. I was like,
my 2 are embarrassing and necessary, because I can never remember if it's like, is it 2 S's? Is it 2 R's? Like, is it 1 R here and 2 S's here? Like, I do it wrong every single time, which is pathetic, because again, I went to grad school for journalism. Like, you think I would know by now.
Well, again, we have computers and they fix it for us. So that's, yeah.
Exactly.
Now, making a non-alcoholic drink is, not in the norm, and for the most part, especially in this industry, being a woman CEO is not a norm as well. What has been some of the challenges you faced with Buzzkill when it does come to a woman-owned business?
That's a really good question. Well, I'm not someone, I'll say up front, I'm not someone that likes to play the victim if I could avoid it. So, I tend to always give people the benefit of the doubt and say, like, if I'm experiencing something I highly doubt it's because I'm a woman. That being said, because, I have been treated really well by most people in my career, both men and women. But that being said, I think the biggest challenge is probably that when it comes to doing things like fundraising or like anything involving finances and money, most of the people in that industry are men. And it can be intimidating, as someone who doesn't come from that background. And then also just facing like a big boardroom table of dudes. Like that's always, you know, kind of hard, when you don't